again, everyone, and welcome to Badger Breakdown, brought to you by U.S. Cellular. I'm Mike Lucas for UWBadgers.com. I'm joined by Matt Lepay, the voice of the Badgers. I think by now everyone has tried to digest what happened at Arizona State. And based on what you've seen and I've seen, it looks like this football team has moved forward and is ready for its Big Ten opener.
Talking to a couple of players early in the week, Mike, they were very happy to be back on the practice field. Which you probably are after a loss anyway, but I think especially after what happened last week, move forward. And I think it really helps that Big Ten play is starting now. I think anybody would be good, but the fact that it's conference play, these guys have won the last three, trying to make it four, that helps them refocus.
And I think the one pertinent question that we still may have from that loss is, can Wisconsin take what it learned? Can it build on what it saw? Can it use its frustration and its anger to its advantage? All of the above.
It's always been, I ask players this probably every year, ask a coach this every year, do you notice closer attention to detail, maybe more bounce in the step during practice? And some might view it as a standard answer or a stock answer. I think there's a lot of validity to it. The answer is yes, because they know there's more on the line now when you get into conference play.
It's more physical too. Now Wisconsin has owned Purdue, having won 7 straight in the series. I look at it, and I think the biggest difference from my perspective is that Purdue does not have that one dominant quarterback that it's been known for, and during this streak the Badgers have capitalized on it.
Yeah, Rob Henry is their guy now. They've gone through a lot of injuries. I think of Robert Marv and some other players they've had at that
Rob
position.
Henry is their Kurt Phillips.
It absolutely is. He was somebody who a couple years ago led the team, the first quarterback, the only one in Purdue history to lead the team in passing yards and rushing yards. So they've had to ask him to do an awful lot. You mentioned the injuries at the position. Akeem Hunt is somebody who's showing some versatility. One thing in watching the Purdue games so far this season, the Badgers are known for their fly sweeps. Purdue does a lot of that too.
Very
defensively, they have guys like Bruce Gaston on the defensive line, Ricardo Allen in the secondary. It's been a strange program, Mike. At their worst, they've been pretty bad, but at their best, they've proven they can play with anybody.
I think it's important to make note of some of the players who really played well on defense at Arizona State. We can start with Bo Allen up front. You don't always look to a nose guard against the spread offense to be a factor in the game, but he was from the opening snap.
And the fact that a nose guard was against that offense is really significant. The easy highlight is when he pounced on the botched punt from Arizona State in the end zone. That's a special teams play, but his activity, you think of the heat, the number of plays that Arizona State ran. Wisconsin subbed as best it could on the defensive side, but when 96 can stand out in a game like that, that's a very good sign.
And the big news last week was that Joe Schobert was going to get his first career start at outside linebacker, and that pushed Ethan Armstrong inside. And you have to like the results of Armstrong and Borland, that tag team.
Ethan Armstrong, they always talk about his football IQ, if it was the previous staff or this one. We're really seeing this. His responsibilities, he understands them both as an outside linebacker, as an inside linebacker. It's kind of funny because, well, funny's the right word, but as many injuries as he's had, he moves well. He does, which is probably an upset considering they always talk about having to put him back together again, but he's a very good athlete.
One last player I want to mention, that's Des Southward. I know he was upset and frustrated with the late hit he got on the sidelines, but he could have had 3 interceptions in that game.
Yeah, you know what? It's a good point because, Mike, I think on the one hand you look at the drops that Arizona State's receivers had. That's real. I think they had at least 4, which you mentioned with Des. He was in position, made some plays, and I think he'd probably tell you he had 1 or 2 drops. So you can look at it both ways. There's a lot of teaching tape, I'm sure, for Wisconsin off of that game, both sides of the ball. But to your point, defensively against what Arizona State was doing offensively, but missed opportunities that I'm thinking he won't miss in the future.
Now, if there was any question if the Big Ten had enough speed to compete with the Pac-12, it was answered by number 25, Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, absolutely, which leads us to this week's U.S. Cellular question of the week. Comes from Dave up in Green Bay, who wants to know, is Melvin Gordon getting enough touches? What they're doing is working, but I'll give you the first crack there. What do you think?
I think it's easy to second guess now because he has put together a stretch of so many big plays, and you just wonder, would he be as effective if you gave him the ball more? I like the balance that they've been able to attain or achieve with James White, who absolutely deserves the rock. And if anything else, Corey Clement only got a couple of touches last week. I know what fans are thinking and feeling, but if it's not broken, I don't think you try to fix it now with Melvin Gordon. He's going to get enough touches, and as the Big Ten season moves along, I think he'll get more.
And when he is touching the ball, you better watch.
Yes.
Because if you're not, you might miss a highlight. I mean, this guy's averaging 13 yards a carry, but you got James White 6+ in his career, and You mentioned Corey, not a lot of touches this week, but I'm thinking there's going to be
the best part of the system, the tailback system, is that these tailbacks complement each other, and you want that change of pace because it puts a lot of pressure on the defense.
All right, here's how it works. First, thanks for your question. Here's how it works. If you have a question for us, just send it to us using the hashtag Badger Breakdown. If we use your question, you'll win yourself a Badger prize pack, which includes authentic Adidas apparel, all courtesy of U.S. Cellular.
One last thought. I think you called him Mr. Reliable, Mr. Clutch, whatever name. He's not a household name, and that's Jeff Duckworth, who comes up with what should have been the play of the game had the Badgers been able to kick the field goal.
Think about the number of great receivers that we've seen. Certainly you've covered this program longer than I have. Can you think of one who's come up with more catches in big stage moments than Jeff Duckworth? I mean, and you're right. That should have had the chance.
He defines unsung.
Absolutely. He's just there. He's there when you need him, and he proved it again last Saturday.
For Matt Lepay, I'm Mike Lucas for UWBadgers.com. Thanks for watching Badger Breakdown, brought to you by U.S. Cellular.